So here we are in the beautiful ballroom of Sherman Hall on its third floor on the campus of Western Illinois University, and looking at a painting in 1911 depicting, as the plaque says, the Mormon temple in Nauvoo, Illinois, after its destruction. And that commemorates an important event, actually, in the kind of history of Illinois, history of the United States during the early Republic, and the history of American religion. The Mormon temple in Nauvoo, built by the followers of Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon Church, begun in New York when Joseph Smith, the prophet, discovered plates buried in the ground there and interpreted them to be revelations to him by the angel Moroni, providing a history of a lost tribe of Israel that came to North America in ancient times, and their descendants, the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, were called to reestablish Jerusalem, Zion, and that prompted the Great Migration of the Mormons, first from New York through Ohio, then to Missouri, then back actually to Illinois. They didn't meet a whole lot of, they did not get a warm reception, shall we say, in Missouri. Retreated to Illinois on the banks of the Mississippi at Nauvoo, and they built this temple, a magnificent structure, probably one of the largest buildings in the whole state at the time. Nauvoo attracted people from all over the Western world. It was probably one of the biggest cities in Illinois, certainly rivaling Chicago. But then in the early 1840s, 1840, Joseph Smith declares himself a candidate for the presidency of the United States. And that rankled people who were not Mormons, who suspected Joseph Smith, the Mormon Church, of being, I guess, what you would call today a cult. Decide that the Mormons won't be allowed to stay in Illinois. And Joseph Smith, his brother, arrested, put in the jail in Carthage, Illinois, and abruptly murdered by a mob, basically lynched, who believed that Joseph Smith had too much power. There was a Mormon militia standing force to protect him, and thus began the destruction of the Mormon temple here at Nauvoo. The survivors of the group, the Mormons, didn't give up, though, of course. Brigham Young picked up leadership of the Mormon Church and reestablished, ultimately, the headquarters of the Mormon Church in Utah, Salt Lake City. But what this incident tells us is the vibrancy of popular religion in the early American Republic. Joseph Smith, a kind of indicator of this, what we call the Second Great Awakening, an ordinary man who believes that he has been called by God to be a religious leader, declares himself to be a religious authority, and attracts people to him. He doesn't really have any theological training. Nonetheless, he is famous as the founder of what is today a global church, the Mormon Church. Also indicator, I guess we would have to say, also of the violence of the early American Republic, the way that law and order failed to protect Joseph Smith. A mob did him in and his brother, and there's a real tendency in the early United States for people to take the law into their own hands, to create justice, oftentimes at the end of a rope. So this is an early kind of obscure chapter in the history of our state. Nauvoo, only about 30, 40 minutes west of Macomb, if you're in the area. Certainly go out there. They rebuilt the temple and rebuilt the village of Nauvoo. There are people who can show some of the crafts and the handmade tools that were kind of characteristic of the age. People very self-reliant and resourceful. They give you a sense of what they had to do to prepare for the long trek westward from Nauvoo out to Utah to establish Zion, where they could worship safely away from the crowds in the east. Utah provided a kind of asylum for the Mormon church. This is a theme in early American history. America functioned itself as an asylum, first for the Puritans and others who came to wish to worship freely in the New World, and the Mormons can be seen in that context.